she had come from a money situation in her background to where there was a lot of fear around money. And that happens with a lot of people, experiences we have in our childhood and experiences around us with, just family and all of that have a psychological effect on how we view the world and money. And so, what sort of backgrounds did you guys bring to the table with each other? Maybe if you have spent any thought thinking of it, did you come from two different worlds kind of?
Totally two different
I could
worlds.
see that on their face when they started laughing.
Totally two different worlds. So
Yeah.
I grew up, I'd say like in a middle class family. We had a beautiful home that my father actually built from the ground up. He's a very skilled craftsman. So I grew up with a mom who had a state job and the pension and the benefits and the security. And I kind of grew up with that privilege of I learned a lot of the lessons around the importance of saving, getting a secure job, blah, 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 So for me, I have a career as a school social worker. I have my pension. I have my great health insurance. I have my kind of low risk career. And going into the relationship with Josh, we were friends for a long time before we dated. But I saw this guy who had a lot of car debt and was rolling negative car equity into negative car equity. Am I saying that
Yeah.
right? And, making some really poor financial decisions. And I don't even know if you had a savings account. I don't know what you were doing.
No.
And it was like red flag everywhere. But growing up, Josh did not grow up in a middle class family. His family made a lot happen with very little. So growing up with that, home life, you just didn't learn some of those lessons because it just wasn't a reality, because it was getting through month to month and it wasn't thinking of that bigger picture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, like scarcity mindset was very real. I mean, I grew up, food stamps, welfare, every type of public assistance that was available. And, it was just kind of survival for most of my life. And so that mindset and those behaviors kind of carried over into adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden, when I was, I graduated college and I was making money, my mindset is, I don't know when I'm ever going to make money again. So why not spend it? It was kind of like, I spent the last 21 years living a really hard life and now I'm going to live it up. And very, very quickly, though, that kind of got me in greater debt, greater financial strife. And so, that's kind of one of the greatest things about, coming from different backgrounds sometimes is you just get a whole different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when Allie and I, first started dating and I started realizing for her background was like a middle class background. To me, I was like, you're rich. You have a house. You have two parents, you have cars. Like, you're clearly a millionaire, not knowing, how it all works kind of thing. But yeah, we came from very, very different backgrounds.
So I think the different backgrounds has been a strength because it really helps with perspective and with balancing each other. But it has not been easy.
No.
It was a huge challenge to get to where we are. Like, it was like, oh my God, that's how you think about that. Like, it was tough, So, and you're laughing, so I wonder if you can relate. But it's just like, it's hard to merge those two. We met when we were 22 and 23. Like, that's 22, 23 years of being socialized and programmed to think a certain way. And it's like, oh, let's merge our lives together and we think totally differently on this topic and let's make it work. So not so easy.
Yeah, no, for sure. We definitely came from different backgrounds in the sense that like I was very carefree, and that's been one of my great strengths. But it's also, being married to Allie has been a huge benefit in the sense she's like, oh well, that could have went wrong or that could have went wrong, and it's like, man, I like literally never considered any of that. And like I don't know, I just figured like if anything went wrong, I would just work hard enough to like overcome it. And that was a huge benefit because it allowed me to kind of get in and where a lot of people do like analysis paralysis. I've never related to that because I just shoot and then aim. And where like my wife like aims and then like pulls the, would like aim again and then like aim again and then like aim again. And I'm just like, all right, I'm just gonna leave. But yeah, it's just different perspectives and kind of marrying those two and merging the two. Like I obviously there are so many things that I've learned in like the last year where I'm like, oh, I would have never ever in my entire life figured that out by myself.
Nope. Yeah, no, man, everything you're saying right now is like literally us to a T. I mean, and so the thing is too, so because I've always just been kind of like jump into something and I'll figure it out, in the midst of everything. In a way, like so I've definitely been more of a risk taker because it was all or nothing for me. And so that's actually a big reason, probably why we got into house
Oh
hacking.
yeah.
Because to me it was kind of like we can't afford not to take this chance. And at the end of the day too, like back of the envelope math, I was like, I don't really understand real estate when we were getting in, but I was like, that's $600 a month that we're saving. Like that's pretty basic. We'll figure out real estate, the whole concept and how to actually analyze things. We'll figure it out. But like you can read a book about riding a bike or you can ride a bike. And that was like that's always been like my mantra. And so like throughout my whole life, I've ridden a lot of bikes and I've fallen a ton. And some of the bikes I had no business going near. But at the end of the day, like that's kind of how I've always lived my life. And we've definitely contrasted in that regards, but I definitely think we bring balance to each other.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And I say it all the time, like doing your first deal, you could read 1,000 books and listen to 1,000 podcasts and you'll never gain not only the confidence, but just sort of like you'll never understand it at the level that you would with one deal because it relates in a totally different way. You have an emotional, now when I listen to books, I have an emotional kind of, thought that it is provided by one of our properties.
Yeah.
Right.
And to where when you're reading, these concepts sometimes can get so out of control, and you're like, man, I can't relate. I could never relate to that. But then when you go through it, and so Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets, of course, talks about it all the time. But like, if you literally just find an average deal to where you make sure you get an inspection on it, and so there's nothing majorly wrong with the property, and you basically just get the average, maybe a little bit of savings, or you come close to living free or something like that. I mean, from my perspective, it's a home run because no matter how long you wait, you're probably never going to find a home run deal. And it just kind of leads to analysis paralysis. And so if you can find a mediocre deal, it just provides the confidence that you could never, find in books or podcasts.